weren't we supposed to have a bumper? I'm sorry, guys. I thought we were going to have a bumper. Isn't that what we usually have? Like, tell us about the series. Would you just say this right now? He got distracted. Okay? Everybody say that on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. He got distracted. Yeah, that's what I'm going to talk about today. Letting go of our distractions. Now, some of you are wondering right now, was he just punking us, or was it really truly that he got distracted? I'll let you determine that later on. But today, that's what I want to talk about, letting go of distractions. Last week, we talked about letting go of those things that hold us back, the stuff in our life that holds us back. And today, I want to talk about letting go of distractions. I don't know about you, but the truth is, for my life, that sometimes it's very, very hard for me to focus. I mean, sometimes it's hard for me to focus right now while I'm on stage. Like, do I look at the camera? Is that where I should look? Or am I over there? Should I focus somewhere else? I'm not always sure. And sometimes you guys don't help me to focus. You actually distract me more. You know what you do? Sometimes what you'll start to do is that you'll talk to each other right while I'm up here talking. And I get distracted by the two of you doing that. Or more than that sometimes. Sometimes I've seen families up in the balcony. They're just like talking to each other and I'm on the stage. For others of you, it's when you pull out your phone and you decide, well, you know what? I'm just going to start doing this. And that gets me distracted. Or sometimes what really gets me distracted is when you take a little nippy nap all the time. I mean, I've seen it before. People start falling asleep and I look out there and I'm like, oh, that gets me distracted. But I bet I'm not alone when it comes to being distracted. How many of you are ever listening to one of my teachings when all of a sudden your mind starts to wander? How many of you, you don't have to hold your hands up. I didn't ask you to do that. I didn't ask you to do that at all. Discourage me more today. No. But I bet that happens. You're listening to the teaching and then all of a sudden your mind wanders to like, what am I going to eat for lunch? Like, I'm really hungry, or where are we going to go? Or maybe what happens is you start wandering a little bit of like, you know what? I don't like Chris's outfit. I mean, I really don't like that blue. And gray jeans, like serious bunch, couldn't you get something else? And you're distracted by that. Or maybe you're distracted by someone that's sitting in front of you and you're like, they're weird. Like, they're really weird. Or you look behind you and they're like looking at you and they're telling you you're weird. And what happens is it's very easy for us to get distracted. It is very hard for us to stay focused. It is a fight to focus. Let's all say that out loud together. It's a fight to focus. One more time. It's a fight to focus. It really, really is. And today, what I want to talk about is letting go of distractions. Now, I looked up this word distraction, and this is what it means. A pulling apart, that's your first fill-in. For those of you that are on the stream right now, you can type that into your app. Everybody else in your program. It's a pulling apart. It's separating. It means drawing of the mind in a different direction. Do you realize that your spiritual enemy, the devil, what he desires more than anything else is to distract you from the things that are most important, what matters most. Our enemy, what he really wants to do is to divide our mind, to discourage our soul, and to distract us from what matters the most. I mean, the devil doesn't have to destroy you. All he has to do is distract you. Because if he can distract you enough, eventually what happens by our choices is we destroy ourselves. He doesn't have to distract you he doesn't have to destroy you. All he has to do is distract you, because if he distracts you enough, then you will destroy yourself. So, my question is, have you ever been distracted? Have you ever been tempted to kind of be discouraged, and then all of a sudden what happens is you get very, very out of focus? Well, I think that God must have realized that you and I would struggle with this thing called distractions. And so one day, Jesus addresses this as he goes to a dinner of two sisters that put it on for him. In Luke chapter 10, verse 38, we read this. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister named Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said, but Martha was what? What's it say? Distracted. Martha was distracted by all of the preparations that had to be made. She was distracted. Now, I don't blame Martha at all. Because if Jesus was coming to my house, I would be a little anxious too. Like if Jesus came to my house, I would want to make sure that everything was cleaned up, that the vacuum had been run, that the kitchen was clean, that everything's going well. I would want to make sure that there was enough toilet paper everywhere and that the hand towel, matched the shower curtain and all of that kind of stuff. I would be distracted because I would want everything to be perfect when he came. And she is distracted by all of the preparations that needed to be made. Verse 40, Martha comes to Jesus and asks, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? I mean, Jesus, just look at her. Look at her lazy butt. That's all she ever does. She just sits around, lays around, doesn't help do anything. She might be the laziest person in our family. Now, all of us have someone like that in our family, don't we? Don't we? Now, if some of you are like, actually, my family doesn't. We're a great family. No one's lazy at all. It might be you. Okay? Just saying. Okay, just saying. But if these are the kind of people, you know them. They're going to come to the Christmas dinner here pretty soon, and the only thing that they're going to bring is Tupperware. Because they're going to bring the Tupperware after everyone has brought all the food and everything's done. They're going to take leftovers in their Tupperware. Those are the kind of people that are difficult sometimes. And Mary was kind of this person. She's just sitting at the Lord's feet enjoying while Martha is making sure that everything gets done. I think Martha often gets a bad rap in this story. I mean, I thank God for the Marthas in our world. Because if it wasn't for Marthas, and I always joke with my wife, I'm like, you're Martha. She goes, I know, you're Mary. And I love the Marthas in our world because if we didn't have Marthas, folks, we would never eat. We would never eat. And if it was Mary that was running everything, we would starve to death. There would be no Christmas dinners, and there would be no Christmas gifts wrapped. So Martha sometimes gets a bad rap. Again, Martha comes to Jesus and says, Lord, don't you care that my sister Mary's left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me out. And then in verse 41, Jesus kind of does this unusual expression of love to Martha. Watch how Jesus gently loves Martha, just like some of you need to allow Jesus to gently kind of remind you and love you today and to receive what he says when he said this. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you're worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed. There are only a few really important things, Martha, and indeed only one. And then with love, Jesus looks directly into Martha's eyes and he says this, Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken from her. Now, what's interesting to me in this story is that Martha didn't do anything bad. She didn't do anything wrong, did she? Martha didn't do anything wrong. She didn't create any chaos. She didn't create any drama. She didn't do any of that. She actually was doing something that was very, very good. It just wasn't the best. And this kind of leads us to our big idea and the next fill-in for you, and it's this. The most difficult choices aren't between good and bad, but between good and best. The most difficult choices that we have are not between good and bad, but between good and best. If you realize this, that the enemy can't make you bad. If he can't make you bad in some way, what he'll do is he'll distract you with all other kinds of things. He'll distract you from doing the best things that honor God. So for the rest of our time, what I simply want to do is share with you 3 thoughts on choosing what is best. And here's the first one. Diminish the distractions. Diminish the distractions. Paul, the guy who wrote close to half of the New Testament, is considered one of Jesus' closest followers, gave us words around relationships and marriage about this, but it kind of fits for our discussion today. Paul wrote these words. He said, I'm giving you this advice, and I'm saying this for your benefit, not to place restrictions on you. In other words, Paul says, I'm giving this to you not to be legalistic, not to put you down, not to have a heavy hand on you. He says, I want you to do whatever will help you to serve the Lord the best. And I want you to do this with as few what? What's it say? Distractions as possible. I want you to do this with as few distractions as possible. Anyone want to take a guess what is maybe the most common distraction in our world today? Anyone want to take a guess? This. Our smartphone. It's this device. And this device is so smart. I love my device. It's so smart. It's so cute. It's so cuddly. I love my little device. I see it all the time. And ooh, it's such a cute little boy. He just really is. I just love him. And what happens is that many of us get distracted by this. In fact, statistically, I read a research study this week, and this is just on average. The average American looks at this device every 10 minutes. In fact, some of you, since I've been talking, you've already looked at your device, haven't you? Don't raise your hand, okay? We won't throw you out. But every 10 minutes, someone looks at this device. And then let's talk about social media. Now, this device is a good device. Using it is important. Social media is good. I have different kind of social media that I'm a part of. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. But the problem is that sometimes with social media, we get consumed by it. Now here's another statistic. It's true. This is what research says. That the average American spends more than 2 hours per day on social media. Just social media. So that means some people are using it a whole lot more and some are less. But the average of all of us in this place right now is we look at social media more than about 2 hours. So statistically, I started thinking about that. My youngest daughter, Shiloh, is 15 years old. Let's just say that she actually lives for 70 years. So it's like an old Shiloh, okay? 85. And she's lived for 70 years. If she just does the average of 2 hours per day, she would spend 6 years on social media. Think about that. Tap, tap, swipe, swipe, woo, woo. Let me get a little bit of ha-ha with my selfie. And I put it on social media, and I'm on that all the time. 6 years if you just do what is the average. Again, social media isn't bad, but is it worth 2 hours of our day? Folks, don't allow your one and only life and the calling that God has on you to be distracted by things that really don't matter. Because listen, everybody look up here. If you've kind of drifted off, look up here just for a second. Listen to this. Your life is too valuable, and your calling too great, and you are too loved, and your God is too good to waste your life on things that just do not matter. So diminish the distractions. Now, one thing that you can do that will actually help you with this is you can set a limit on how much time you spend on your phone or on social media. Both of my daughters set this on both of their phones. It's something that I'm most proud about them, that they set how much time that's on there, and then it tells them you don't have any more time, and then they're done. Now, several years ago, I became very addicted to the bings, the bongs, the beeps, the dings, the dongs, everything that I would hear on my phone. And I wanted to be available 24/7. And I got so overwhelmed. So finally, I had a friend of mine, because I didn't know how to do it. I said, hey, can you take my phone? I want you to get rid of every ding, bing, dong, whatever away. And what I want you to do is simply have it for a phone or a text. That's the only notice that I want to see. And so that happened. And so that was going really well until finally, I noticed that when I was on my study day getting ready for my teaching, every time the phone would ring or every time I would hear a beep, I would pick it back up again. So I had to distance myself from all those kind of connections. So I asked my amazing secretary, Ruth Anna, to hold all of my calls, not to have anyone on Friday come unless it's emergency. And then I take this phone, I actually turn it off. I tell Jennifer I'm turning off the phone, I put it aside, and I only check it a couple of times during the day. And what it's done is it's allowed me to distance the distraction. And I was thinking that as we get ready to go into Christmas, maybe for some of you, just between now and the rest of the year, you would limit some of your usage. You would actually take a fast on some of the things that are on this device so that you might focus on what is most important. That you would diminish your distractions. Now, for others of you, maybe it's not the email or, a phone call or a text, but it's gaming. Like every time Fortnite's on, you're like, dude, I'm there. And you're gaming, whatever your game is, and you get distracted. Maybe that's it. For others of you, maybe it's people. People in your life have a tendency to distract you. Now, as Christians, we are to love everyone. We are to make other people our friends. But we can limit the amount of time that we're spending with people. I mean, if our inner circle has people that are tearing us down, pulling us down, we've got to limit that time, because that inner circle should just be people who encourage you, who build you up, not making us feel less of ourselves and not tempting us to do foolish things. And then one last thing, and this is, I think, very evident. Some of you are dating distractions. Okay? You're dating distractions. Now, some of the boyfriends right now are like, oh, dude, I wish he wouldn't have said that. But this is the truth, ladies, that if your boyfriend is distracting you from serving God, if he is distracting you in any way from not honoring you, being respectful to you, being kind to you, what you need to do is delete the boyfriend and let God give you an upgrade. You delete the boyfriend and you let God give you an upgrade. And for all the guys, same thing. If you have a girlfriend in your life who is distracting you from honoring God in the ways that you want, you've got to distance that distraction. You've got to remove that from your life. What you have to do is to distance yourself so you can focus on what's most important. Because it's a fight to focus. Let's say that. It's a fight to focus. It's a fight to focus. So first of all, I'm going to diminish the distraction. Secondly, I'm going to ask God to give me the power to focus on what's most important. That's your next fill-in. To focus on the important. Solomon, considered one of the wisest people ever to walk planet Earth, maybe the wisest outside of Jesus himself, said this: "Set your gaze and your path before you." Then I love this next phrase, "with fixed purpose." Say fixed purpose. Fixed purpose. With fixed purpose, looking straight ahead, ignore life's what? Distractions. Just ignore them. My uncle Phil was a real tough guy, and he was a big-time fisherman. And when I was in middle school, one day he said, "Hey, I want to take you and your parents out to Salamone Reservoir, and we're going to go fishing." And so we get his truck all loaded up, and we get his boat in the back, and we're all excited, or I was at least. And we get to Salamone. He backs the truck down the trailer into the water, and he gets ready for the boat to go in, and he comes up to me and he says, "Chris, I want you to hold on to this rope." And I looked at that rope, and all of a sudden I was like, who wants to hold on to a stinking rope? Like, why is a rope so important? This doesn't seem important at all. I want to unhitch the trailer. I want to drive the boat. I want to cast the line. I want to get a 5-pound bass. I don't want to hold this stinking rope. And pretty soon my uncle pulled the truck up, and I just dropped the rope. And I turned around, I saw my uncle take the truck up, and he got the trailer, and I'm walking towards him because I'm thinking to myself, maybe he'll help me, allow me to do something, mechanical. And I get up there, and he gets out of his truck, and I'll never forget, he looked out, and he said, "The boat! The blankety blank." I can't tell you what my uncle actually said in church, but he was a cussing sailor, and so he actually was in the Navy, and he started cussing like crazy. And I remember him cussing. I'm like, "Dude, why are you getting so crazy?" "Yeah, the boat's in the water. It's no problem." And I looked around, and the boat started drifting off into the water. And all of a sudden, it hit me. I should have focused on what was most important, and that was holding on to the rope. You see, keeping your eyes fixed on what is most important really is what is best. And the key is to do it with a fixed purpose. Peter, one of Jesus' closest friends, one of his inner circle, one day learned this as he saw Jesus walking on the water. One day Peter and the disciples are in a boat, and all of a sudden as Peter looks up, he looks at Jesus, and Jesus is walking on the water. He's like, "Yo, Jesus, that you on the water?" And Jesus is like, "Yep, it's me." And he's like, "I want to walk on the water." He said, "Well, get out." So all of a sudden, Peter gets one foot out of the boat and he puts it into the water, and he's like, "Whoa, it feels like I'm on land." And so he takes the other foot off and he puts it on the water, and now he's standing on the water and he's looking at Jesus, and he's like, "This is so awesome." And he takes one step, and then he takes another step, and pretty soon he's walking towards Jesus, and he's got his eyes fixed on him. And then all of a sudden he puts his head down and he notices the waves and the water and how big they are, and he gets distracted as he looks at them, and he starts to sink. The reality is that some of you are sinking today. You're sinking. You're always stressed. You're always overwhelmed. You're always depressed. You feel like you're behind. You feel like you never measure up. You feel less than. You're constantly comparing yourself to your sister or your brother or a coworker or somebody else. So why is it that you are sinking all the time? Could it be that you are looking at the waves and the water and the wind that is around you, and you're looking at them, and you're looking at this, and you're looking at that, and you're looking all around instead of keeping your eyes fixed with purpose, fixed on Jesus himself? You know, the only way that you can truly serve God is that you put him first. It's not just pastor up here saying you should do this. No, Jesus actually said this. He said this, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. Seek him what? What's it say? Seek him first. When? First. Seek him first. Always first. So when I wake up, like I did this morning at the beginning of my day, before I even got out of bed, I had a 2-minute prayer where I seeked him first. It wasn't a big, long prayer, but I just spent some time with him first. Then we seek him on the first day of the week. What is the first day of the week? Yeah, some of you said Monday. Yeah, no, it's not Monday. The first day of the week, folks, is Sunday. And as long as I'm in Muncie or I'm here, I will be here on the first day of the week in God's house, because I want to align the first day with the rest of the week. Then anytime that God blesses you in some increase, a financial increase, I give it back to him. I don't keep it for myself. I want to put him first in everything, including my finances, that I choose to tithe, that I choose to give 10% or work towards that. But every time I get an increase, I give to him first. And folks, you know what? This is what you have to realize. You never just kind of wander into righteousness. You never just kind of wander into doing the right thing. You don't just kind of stumble your way into effectiveness. You never fall into the glory of God. You do this with a fixed purpose. I put him first. I do not let distractions consume me. You fix your eyes on him. You put him first. It doesn't just happen accidentally, like, oh, now I'm going to put God first. It doesn't happen like coincidentally, oh, I'm going to do that. No, you choose to put him first. It's a choice. You choose to put him first. You know, what Satan will do is he tries to distract you. He tries to distract you with a ding and a bing and a bong and whatever that is. He distracts you by saying, don't hold on to the rope. There's more important things than doing that. Don't do that. And all of a sudden, he realizes that if he can distract you enough, eventually he could destroy your life, or more importantly, you destroy your life from the distractions that you have. And Jesus then looks at us and says, Martha, 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 you are worried and upset of many things, but there's only one thing that matters most. Just a few things, Martha. Just a few. Focus on what's important. And then one last thought on choosing what is best. And I really do desire this in my life, and I pray that you do as well. And it's this: to listen to the voice of God. To listen to the voice of God. I'm going to choose to listen to his voice. I love the imagery that's found in Isaiah chapter 30, verse 21. It says this, and your ear shall hear a word behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it. When you turn to the right or when you turn to the left. I love that imagery. It's as if the Spirit of God is whispering to us, saying, wait a minute, you can do that. That's good. Or the whisperer might say, that's not good. Why do you make that choice? Don't go that way. You could choose something better. Or let's walk this way. Let's get this path. Folks, you see, when you seek God first, he actually then will seek you. He will pursue you. As we seek Him, He seeks us, and we hear from His voice. If you seek God, you will hear from Him. You know, one sure way that you will always hear from God is by reading His words. These are His words. And so I'm in the midst of my reading plan right now, and I'm in Revelation, the last book of the Bible. And sometimes people get freaked out by Revelation. There's a lot of imagery, and it's difficult to understand sometimes. And some of it, no one really understands until we maybe get to heaven. But this last week, I was reading in Revelation 7:15, and it says this, "And He who sits on the throne will live among them and shelter them." And when I read those words, it was as if I sensed that God was right beside me saying, I live with you, Chris. I am right here beside you. I am present with you, and I am sheltering you. I will protect you. And in that moment, after I read those words, all of a sudden, anxiety, fear, all of that reduced, and I had this sense that He was present because I chose to read His words, that it was all in His words. He also speaks through His Spirit. Maybe not audibly, but sometimes there'll be a prompting that we hear. He speaks through people. Maybe He speaks through a teaching, through a song, through circumstances. I mean, if you have ears to hear, He says, I will speak to you in some way. Choose this way. Walk in this path. Don't do that. That's foolish. Serve this person. Care for that person. Remove that person from your life. So we have to take moments to be still, to listen, to pray. Because your life is too valuable, and you are too loved, and your God is too good, and your calling too great to waste your life. So listen to His voice and allow Him to direct your steps. One of my favorite times of ever hearing God's voice happened a few years ago. When you go into our home from our garage, there is a door, and as you go into the door, on the right-hand side, there are some bins. My wife got these cloth bins, and these bins are where our girls' shoes are supposed to go. Now, guess what happens a lot of times? They don't put them in the bins. They just throw them all out on the floor, on the carpet, and I remember this day so vividly. I walked in and I tripped over one of the shoes. And I lost it. I was like, why do we even have the stinking bins when they don't even use them? They just leave their shoes all over the place. And then all of a sudden I got this prompting in my spirit, not audibly, but just in my spirit. Embrace the shoes. Embrace the shoes, because there will be a day when those shoes won't be in your house, and you will wish like crazy that you had those shoes. So let me ask you this morning, maybe like with me, on that day and many days since, God is saying to you, like He said to me, Chris, you are worried and upset about many stupid things. You're distracted by things that don't matter. Tap, tap, scroll, let me see what I can find. More, look at me, I'm going to post that. And yet there are really things that just don't matter. But you get to choose. You get to choose what you will focus on. So what are you going to choose? What are you going to choose? Let me just tell you this. that your life is too valuable. Your calling too great. And your God is too good to get distracted by things that don't matter and waste your life. So, let's choose to let go of the distractions. Let's pray. Loving God, I thank you so much for your presence in this place today and for everyone on the stream watching. That right now, God, you would come and you would help us to choose what is best. Give us the power by your Spirit to overcome the evil one who longs to distract us from hearing what is best. And help us, Lord, to focus on what's most important. God, today we put you first. We put you first in everything in our life. We want to keep our eyes fixed on you, fixed with a purpose. I pray that by your Spirit, God, that you would prompt us again and again and again to put you first and to demolish the distractions.